Oh, I got a statement I can read. I'd like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, please identify yourself. If you are joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard. Or if you are joining by phone, by pressing *9 on the keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record. Rich.
Ahoy, it's Rich from the MB Times.
Welcome, sir.
And Louisa,
Salutation. Louisa Hofstad. Who's that?
thank you. Yeah, that's all I saw.
Okay, pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and in line with social distancing guidelines followed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Port Council members Nat Lowell and Bud Brial are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. As a result, the Port Council will be taking votes by roll call. The board does not have to do that since all members are here except for Ms. Tierney, who is not. Lost my place on this. So as a result, okay. As we start, I'd like to introduce everyone at the table since we don't do that usually. So all the way down here at the end, we have Mr. Reese, it's from Fairhaven, Mr. Salido from Martha's Vineyard. I don't know if you want to be more specific than that. Oak Bluffs. We have Mr. Munier from Falmouth. Mr. Cahill from Tisbury. Mr. Jeffrey from Falmouth on the board here. Myself from Nantucket, Mr. Ranny. Mr. Jones here to my right from Barnstable. We have Mr. Malkin from Martha's Vineyard. And then we have from staff, we have Sean Driscoll, the communications director. Bob Davis, our general manager, Mr. Keneally, our general counsel, and Mr. Rozum, our treasurer comptroller. So, first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We're going to let the Port Council go first with their November 1, 2022 meeting. So who's going to take? Mr. Cahill will take that.
All right, motion to approve the meeting. Minutes. Second.
Actually, I haven't.
We can open for discussion. Just need a second. All right, discussion.
Yeah, one point I happened to notice that I wasn't shown as present at the last meeting. That's in minutes. I was present at the last meeting. At least if you leave and see all the quotes that were in minutes.
Yeah.
I guess I was. Like to correct the minutes to show that I was present.
I will correct it as such.
Thank you.
Any more conversation or discussion? Nat, anything?
Aye.
All right, motion to approve. Or a vote, please. Sorry, roll call vote. Mark,
Mark Reese, yes.
Joe Salido, yes.
Rob Munier, yes.
Nat Lowell,
Aye. Yes.
John Cahill, yes.
And Bud is on.
Oh, where is he?
He's on.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Bud's here and I abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
All right, thank you.
Okay, for the board, we have our minutes, I'm sorry, from November 28th, 2022 in public session. Do we have a motion on that?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No, the ayes have it. General Manager's report.
Good morning, everyone. So first off, is an update on the website redesign, and actually that's Sean, if he's
Good morning, everybody. Just a brief update on the progress of the website project. The technology team has been hard at work on advancements to the API stability and functionality and continue to connect the test data to test their work. The Steamship Authority reached an agreement with Storyblock to use their content management system platform for the new website. That product will be a great improvement to us over the current CMS and will allow a more flexible way for us to provide information to our customers. And the ADK tech team is now working on setting up content types, data models, permissions, and workflows within Storyblock. The technology team also worked on a proof of concept prototype with our new credit card processor. And last week, ADK and the Steamship Authority also held a working session to begin to develop the internal and external communications plan around our launch, including things like, but not limited to, staff training, customer communication, creation of videos and how-to informational materials, and a media plan. And we're also working on developing our own internal review criteria of the website to ensure full functionality before launch. And as always, public engagement has been ongoing through the e-news and website updates at steamshipauthority.com/website project. So happy to take any questions.
Questions? Open to anybody. Yes, sir.
I wouldn't want to disappoint. Thanks.
No, I have it right here. but wait for you.
Interested in the financial update?
Yes. So at the last board meeting, the board approved a change order of about $368,000 to fund additional development for the site. That is highly anticipated to be enough to finish the project. To date, we've paid about $1.3 million, or about 57% of the revised budget cost. The budget burn down is about 88%, which just reflects the fact that while we were working on the change order, we were holding off on a couple of progress payments until we got the new schedule sorted out. So those two will be level relatively quickly. And at this point, we're anticipated anything absent anything seismic that will be enough funding to finish the project.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You talked about developing the training and videos. I guess the first is, when will, I guess, the training rollout plan be available to the Port Council and Board of Review? And then when will training begin for the public?
I would anticipate that we would have more details for that at your January meeting. Because we just had our first meeting last week, so that's all in development. But next month we should have a firmer timeline.
Are we still on schedule though for a March launch?
Our current thinking is that the March launch will be a beta launch and that we'll run the two sites in parallel for as long as a month before we do the official switch. So by mid-March, people will be able to use the new site. We're not necessarily going to switch over to the new site wholly right away. We're going to give ourselves a little bit of a time with both for a shape period, but that'll be a month tops before we officially flip the switch.
And do you anticipate that the last change order procurement we approved will get us past that March?
Yes.
Beta date?
Any questions? Mr. Malcolm?
Thank you. Sean, what work, and maybe this is a Bob question, what work are we doing on the business side to see that we are coordinating the input of information on daily sailings, on availability, on cancellations, and so on and so forth, to feed the website? So what business practices are we working on? Who's working on those?
So the driving element of the schedules and availability does end up coming from the reservation system to the website. And so it's just a matter of making sure that that the schedules are loaded correctly, the allocations, we have to continually be looking at the allocations and making any modifications as warranted based on what the loads are. For instance, a freight trip that doesn't have any freight, and we can turn that into a trip that automobiles can book to. So those are all elements that integrate from our reservation system into the website. As for the messaging and those aspects, we still need to be looking at a development of what messages we'll be pushing out through the app to our customers, and who's going to be having that ability to be able to be pushing those messages out as well, because they're not, it's not anything that ends up being an automated particular time, it automatically sends it out. It's going to have to be, someone's going to have to interface with the system to be able to say, okay, at this point we have a delay in getting that out. So
That's my question. Is somebody somewhere is going to make a decision about a cancellation or a delay?
Yeah.
And that feeds the system. So what business ends are working on figuring out who's going to do that and when? How does that work between marine operations and shoreside operations?
yeah, it's a collaboration between the two in terms of marine marine ops letting shoreside know that there's an issue, or shoreside recognizing that, you know, a particular trip is because of, you know, whatever, whether it's weather or whatever, it is running late, and to be able to put those messages out to our customers that you know, we anticipate you know, 15-minute delay or whatever the case may be. So it's a collaboration between the two. And yes, we need to continually work on trying to improve those lines of communications between the two groups to make sure that we're all you know, same pew, same hymnal.
Right, so by March, when we go into beta, someone will be charged with being that person who is gonna feed that information to the system.
It will have identified who the individuals are, because it's not just gonna be one person. It's gonna have to be, you know, each terminal needs to have the ability to be able to push the messages out and as well. So no one person's at any one location all the time. So.
Thank you.
If I just follow up with Mr. Malcolm's line of question, I guess. Are you anticipating, or is there a flow chart or a decision tree that, you know, if this happens, then this person's contacted, so that there is a standard way of addressing this?
Yeah, so right now it's a lot of this is on the front line in terms of you know, when something's occurring with a vessel, the communication between you know, the vessel and marine ops, the vessel and shoreside and marine ops as well. So it's not necessarily one tree. It has to be, you know, kind of dynamic in terms of it needs input from all sides. And in terms of that, I think that you know, to try to develop that and work on that relationship between the groups is something that we continually have to work on, and we're looking at some tools in that regard to be able to do that. So.
I mean, I guess I'm just following Mr. Malcolm's, presume is his concern that there is a standard way of addressing the, you know, like a dynamic decision tree that, oh, we have mechanical problems on this vessel. This is who it reports to, and how it then gets into the business side reservation system to then get to the mobile app. Thank you.
Other questions?
Not hearing any. Before Bill starts to show us the latest and greatest on the pictures, just some updates. So in terms of the Woods Hole Terminal reconstruction project, since well, the Port Council has been over almost 6 weeks now, and the board 2 weeks. Lawrence Lynch has continued to install drainage piping and stormwater structures on the work site, and is by and large has completed that planned work for phase 5B. They've connected this water line to the for the site to the town of Falmouth's water line on Codder Road. They also began raising the grade and including the drainage and electrical structures within the site work to final elevation. Cullen Electric was on site installing electrical and communications utilities. Lawrence Lynch has been grading in front of slip 1 in preparation for paving, which I believe the binder course is scheduled for later this week or beginning of the next week.
Yep.
So, and at this point, we've sent out 205 community updates regarding the project in total. So with that, Bill.
So as Bob just mentioned, right now, Lawrence Lynch is taking some of the old excess film material from what used to be the filled pier that was stored on Lawrence Lynch's property, and using it to raise the grade of the worksite 5B. And we anticipate, I just got an email this morning, on Thursday, they will put the binder course down, and we will be done with that work site and move on to the next work site. As I mentioned before, there's a total of 6 work sites. We'll have to had 2 will have been completed by the end of this week. Sean, go ahead. So what you're looking at is some of the electrical manholes that and the duct bank that was installed last week. Next one, Sean. These are the duct banks. There's a communications duct bank and an electrical duct bank. These are the main duct banks to bring power and communications to the slips. So these are actually on top of, these duct banks are actually on top of a lot of the piping structures for the stormwater. Next. Just another view of the duct bank closer to the slips. Next, Sean. This is just a site, a work site B. You can see the duct bank and the scope of this work site. There's a lot of work in this work site because the stormwater structures are large. Because they're carrying all the water from the back of the property. And then the duct bank is large because it's going to be the main power source to the slips in the future. Next, Sean. Just another view. This is a concrete encasement of the duct bank. Next. That's it. Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
Those conduits and stuff, are you providing conduits for perhaps an eventual charging station there on the site, or how would that be done?
No, we're not including charging stations for the boats, and we're not, that's not in the design, Bob.
Okay, well, let me ask this then, how, if in fact it becomes a reality, which I'm not gonna hold my breath, but the fact is that, how will we, cable that, charging station, and where will it be built? Do you have any idea?
So I think in terms of any electrification project, there's going to have to be some on-site battery storage because of the limited availability of power going into the village. As pointed out with the LA Bay study. So I think to be at this stage, putting in conduit, not knowing what size conduit we need to be doing and things like that is a little premature. There is some charging stations that are going to be included. So for instance, we're going to be having a station for our electric bus to be able to charge there. And also for instance, the CCRTA, because Woods Hole is one of the farthest points on their run from Hyannis. And so we're including a charging station there that we're going to be coordinating with them to make sure that the connections are the same. So that way, if they need some power, and who knows where the intercity buses, the Peter Pans and the Plymouth and Brockton are going, and whether there's going to be a need for them to be able to charge as well. So, but we have included at least that element of it. So,
But I guess I'm surprised that that'll be battery powered. The big article in the paper this morning about finally getting batteries up and running in Provincetown, and a line there. Quite a big project, but interesting enough, it only has about a 3-hour capability, which is, I know I'm jumping way ahead, so I'll wait till it starts happening, but to get the charging stations, the first one would be naturally mainland, but to get those over to the islands and things like that is just gonna be a monumental task.
Yep, go ahead.
To follow up on what Bob just raised. I had heard that the power coming into Woods Hole isn't sufficient yet. If we were to start powering the steamship down there, we'd brown out Woods Hole.
Yep.
And that's what I think we talked about that maybe a year or so ago. I'm now hearing from people who are talking to Eversource that that's not the case. Do we do any follow-up with Eversource on that? Because your point is actually, if we are going to be bringing big cables in and we're trying to bury them behind us now, we should have space for that stuff.
so I think the last conversation as part of the study and KPFF we have been in contact with Eversource. And that's where the, the availability of power going into the village. I believe that the oceanographic is having an additional line put in by Eversource. Even that was going to be, I think, it's a much needed, power source for them as well. So, but I haven't heard of any changes to that. We're trying to work with Eversource in terms of getting the charging stations up online for when we accept the electric buses that will be putting into service hopefully soon. So, but yes, and we had the point where if it's going to be power that's going to be from just the mainland side, then that requires even more battery storage on board a vessel. So it may have to be in conjunction with any sort of work that's being done on the island side. And my understanding is from talking with our crews is that this past summer, they found that they've had to shut off even more equipment than they typically would at night because there isn't enough power to be powering the vessel at night with shore power. So whether part of that is because I know this is a damaged cable that they're replacing a cable on the video run and they're adding an additional one. So whether that will solve that issue going forward, hopefully it would. But
Again, I think from Bob's point of view is let's not close ourselves out to opportunities that exist in the future. That may exist.
Yeah.
Can we use some of your cable, Roy?
No. Absolutely not. We need all we can get.
I will say we have a waterfront project behind this, contemplating having conduit that would accommodate the future requirement. But charging. Obviously, you can't predict the future and we could be betting wrong, but it's a relatively inexpensive bet to make. So excess capacity in the duct is a smart thing to do. I don't know if you have any excess capacity, not power cable, but just spare ducts. That's a good thing to have. Energy utility.
Any other questions? Thank you.
so next item is an update on the new vessels. So following authorization from the board at the November 28th meeting, Hornbeck Offshore Services made arrangements for the MV HOS North Star to be towed from the storage facility in Houma, Louisiana to Bollinger Shipyard in Amelia, Louisiana on Tuesday, November 29th, the very next day. Following the dry docking in the hull, water blasting of the hull, Mark Emerson and Captain Charles Montero, alongside some support technicians, inspected the vessel. Included in this inspection was a hull diminution study that was done with over 600 locations on the side shell and the bottom plating of the vessel. And much like the surveys that were taken on the Aquinnah and the Monomoy, no significant wastage was identified on those on the North Star. In addition, inspections were made of some of the tanks and voids. I think Mark was in the.
Yeah, he's over. He's there.
Mark,
Mark and ears.
Yes, I can. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, we performed a complete inspection of the vessels underwater, including the underwater apertures, the bow thrusters. We took wear down readings of the shafts and they were all in good order. We also performed inspections of ballast tanks that we had emptied out, and they were consistent with the other two vessels that we previously surveyed, the Monomoy and the Aquinnah. So we were very happy with the results of the inspection.
let's go through some of the.
Yeah, this is a picture of the port forward quarter. I mean, port bow area with the two bow thrusters. I think one of the things that we've really learned is the vessels were stored and it has to be close to fresh water because the hull coatings and were very good condition. And as you'll see, Sean, next slide, please. You know, these are, when the boats had been in cold stack for close to 6-7 years. And if you took this out and compared it to our normal dry docking every 2 years, very, very similar. I mean, the coatings are in very good condition. Next.
Can I ask a question before you go on?
Sure.
Those channels in the hull, I don't know if those are keel cooling beneath there. I don't know what those channels are for.
Yeah, that is, we have a combination of different types of coolers. These are keel coolers and they're a channel cooler. We also have some other type of fin coolers, but you are correct, Bob.
Thank you.
But as you can see, the coatings are in very good condition, protecting the steel. Next. And just picture of the starboard rudder and propeller. So we're very happy with the overall of the condition of the North Star.
Back one other question, I think probably people would be interested in is that has come up in our discussions of the fact of the bow thrusters on something like the Eagle, the horsepower of that versus the three different thrusters we have, both bow and stern on these vessels, and the related horsepower. I just can't remember the figures.
Yeah, these are 950 horsepower each compared to the Eagle 450 horsepower. So these are going to aid a great deal of maneuverability to the new vessels coming in, and at times should add into you know, being able to go in more adverse weather conditions.
Yeah. Big plus.
Any other questions?
Just a question about, are we amending the RFP we put out for the other two Lodestar vessels to include this one?
We're having some internal discussions about whether this will be an add-on to that contract or whether it'll be a separate contract. We haven't completed the purchase as of yet. We were looking to close later this week, but Hornbeck has a timing staffing issue, so they requested that it be next week, and then that causes some problems on our end in terms of having the people to be able to authorize the transfer. So we're going to work those out. Right now, the schedule calls for the bid opening on January 9th to be brought to the board at their January meeting. We've been talking about that in terms of you know, the timing of it. There's some long lead time items, and I think we want to hold as much as possible to that January 9th as if we can. But the package itself, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, is fairly similar to what the other ones are. There's some slight differences in each one of them, but we probably would, one of our thoughts is that we would be going ahead and having this added as part of a 3-package deal. So
I speak only for myself, but if there is a greater potential for cost savings to amend that contract, I'm more than available for a special board meeting.
So I think one of the things that we've been discussing has been that you know, to have one yard do each of them, so that way you don't have, you know, one yard do 2 of them and another yard do 1 or 2 of them, and all of a sudden you find that there's some, you know, the way something was done was, you know, slightly different, and you know, so rather be consistent throughout these, and I think that's why we're leaning to be making it as a 3 vessel deal at this point. part of the other discussion is that we still haven't given up hope on trying to figure out how to fund the fourth one as well, so.
That was my follow-up question. Is there anything we can do on the board to help with the state or whatever entity funding for the fourth vessel?
Yeah, so, part of this is that, we have had a request in to have our bond limit increased. This session wasn't going to be happening, and come the first of the year, Julian Sayre has indicated that he'll be happy to file for an increase on our bond limit. Timing wise, it becomes the issue because it gets filed in January, and by the time it's taken up, it could be after the March date. So Mark and I are working, try to identify what funds we have currently available, and what comes off the schedule come March 1st. And it may be the type of thing where, knowing the timing of when these vessels will be done, it may be that we will have the monies to acquire it, but maybe not necessarily to do knowing the modifications are going to be 9-12 months out
Anyway.
Yeah.
But if there's anything, speaking for myself, and I'm sure other members, if there's anything we can do to assist in that for the fourth vessel, certainly enable it income.
Okay, thank you.
It sounds like we need to get the ear of the legislature.
Well, I know Julian very rarely. There are others.
Yeah, question, I mean, I guess there's a counter argument to going to 1 yard.
Yeah.
Which is, if that yard has a problem.
Yeah.
And so then you've got a problem on 3 boats.
Yeah.
So I think that decision should be made in the light of that scenario, that potential scenario. Second question I have is about, I'm sure you haven't gotten maybe this far in planning, but I don't know which vessels will operate where, but I'm presuming that there'll be several of them in and out of Woods Hole. I'm curious about what slip they would use. These are big boats. It's a very tight fit between the docks there. I know they're highly maneuverable. But what is the intent there? And how would they, which slip would they operate at?
So I think in the absence of the summer months, I think they'd be using slip 1. And slip 2 being used for the bigger vessels. In the summertime right now, we do have the Sankaty berthing in slip 3 and using that. And so whether that be the best spot for that, or we could move some of the others, whether it's the Governor where it doesn't have to turn around and the like. That would be something that we'll be looking at as we prepare the schedules. But I think with the maneuverability on this and the horsepower that the thrusters have, the Marine Ops is confident that they'll be able to handle those swings more efficiently than some of the other ones where you get a little winds. Sometimes the bow thrusters on those crafts are underpowered for what they need to be doing.
Mr. Wool, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question to Mark, I think. How many of these boats that we would, this class, how many are left down there in this, fire sale down there? How many are left?
This is the last one in the series. There is a 5th one, I believe, which is on with the U.S. Navy purchased it. But as far as identical sisters, this is the last one.
That's I was afraid of that. So we don't have, we have a timing issue then. So, do we have any, do we put down, a few million to hold it, a few thousand, or credit card or something to hold this boat?
Yeah, so we do have an option currently that extends out to the end of March.
I thought, I remember you saying that, Bob. I just couldn't remember exactly how this went. So that's good. So we have a little window, right, to figure this out a little bit?
Yes,
Okay, because you know, to all of your points who've spoken, we if we don't, this is a unique moment. If we don't get this fourth boat, it isn't the end of the world, but we'll be discussing it till we're in our 80s. I guarantee it. So I don't want this to become the Sankey that's 9 feet shorter than the Katama and the I boat, H boat problems and all these little things that have gone wrong in the last 20 years that we couldn't avoid. I'm looking forward to having 4 boats that don't have any special problems like those do, which I won't get into, but you know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
so I think one other element of this, you know, in terms of the dry dock contracts that I didn't mention, is that we do want to at least, you know, we still haven't finalized whether it's going to be for 3 or not, but at least do the 2 because, you know, Mark has some bond anticipation notes that he has to refinance come March. So we need to know what that number needs to be in terms of, you know, and whether that would impact the purchase of the fourth vessel as well. So seeing what the bids that come in from the yards that are interested in this. And Mark, do you recall offhand how many yards have taken out the bid package at this point?
We originally had anticipated 27 yards of interest. However, I think we're probably down to somewhere about 8, just judging by the questions coming in for the from each of the shipyards. We're going to get a good response, and so we'll have some good, you know, bids as far as being able to, you know, look at each one of them. It's better than having just 2.
Is that a question I hear?
Yeah, on Nat's point, is there within our agreement on this 4th boat, is there a way that we could put earnest money towards this to freeze it? Our ability to acquire it while we wait to see what we can do towards the end of March?
You know, that would obviously be something that we're, you know, we could sit down and try to talk to see what Hornbeck's willingness to do that.
Well, you know,
but-
it won't be based on money.
Yeah. But I think, you know, part of this, you know, earlier in the conversations had been that they were somewhat reluctant to just extend the current option at the same conditions as the first 3 vessels. But, you know, we're putting some money up front, so.
All of a sudden, they think they're worth more.
They've got a buyer
I think at this point that if we're getting to that point, I think it would be that we would be looking at acquiring the vessel and then storing it until the time that we have the funds to do the modifications.
or using it without the money.
So.
If necessary. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rose,
And depending on the time schedule we get back from the yards, will also indicate the funding, whereas this 4th boat isn't going to be fixed or retrofitted till 2024. That opens up a lot more options for us, where we'd have 2 years of bond payments through, which is about 16 million. We'd also have an idea of what each boat is going to cost versus the estimate, and then we'll have a lot harder numbers where we could purchase the boat and knowing that it's not going to be the other 10+ million to retrofit it isn't going to be for another year and a half. That also opens up another avenue to look at as well.
Well, then you're certainly, from what I'm hearing, it's sounding like this is something that if we work on, we can get done and secure the boat to the Steamship Authority.
We're working on it.
That's our goal.
Yeah. We'll be in a better position once we get the bids.
Everybody's welcome. Thank you.
Just for full disclosure, however, be cognizant that, you know, there is a cost to me maintaining a spare vessel. So, they still will be required to be dry docked every 2 years, we'll still be dry docking every 2 years. The idea is that if we had all four, then we'd be rotating them in and out, so we'd be able to kind of schedule the maintenance on that a little over the four of them as well. But that was an analysis that we had done when we decided that it was best to keep the governor after the Woods Hole came online. Is that there's benefits, operational benefits, but there's also a cost for those benefits. So.
There's also a cost to not doing it as well, or we wouldn't be doing this.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on.
Thank you.
All right. So next, we just have an update on the repair dry dock of the Eagle at Sinesco, and Mark has a slideshow for that as well.
Okay, the Eagle undocked this morning. She's coming out of dry dock, going pier side to finish up the final elements of the dry docking. Got a couple slide pictures to show. So this is of the new ultraviolet water purification system for our passengers and crew. It takes out 99% of any potential, let's just say, it gives a better purification of the water. Next. There's a picture. She's getting the final dress up. The underwater sections are done. They're just doing draft marks right now. Next. Picture of the bulbous bow area, and you can see part of the bow thruster tunnel. Next. We did some steel work on the underwater bottom area. You can see the outline of the weldments that were put in place. Next. Just some final dress up pictures of the propeller and stern frame area. Next. So the highlights of the docking, we did a bow thruster overhaul, structural steel renewals, blasting and coating of the hull and superstructure, new UV water purification system install, and port and starboard shaft overhauls. Next. So the little financial snapshot, the original contract was 1.14 million, 266,000 in change orders, and grand total 1.407,490 is the total change orders and contract value. Any questions?
When will she be back? We're painfully waiting.
Yeah, she's due to come back, I believe, on the 8th. We'll be leaving, I believe, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 9th she'll be back in service.
Beautiful. Thank you all for that, all that work. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before Mark leaves, I have a question for him. Mark, Oak Plus Pier, work this winter. Anything significant?
We're putting in a new sprinkler system. We did the lion's share of the work. We did a substantial amount of work last year with the underwater wrappings of the piers, but the answer is nothing major this year.
Thank you.
As always, we will keep an eye on that facility, and hopefully there's no storm damage over the winter.
Right. And get on to it as soon as we get to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark,
Thanks, Mark.
next.
All right, next, staff is seeking to obtain the members' approval of a proposed Title VI program, which is Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a disadvantaged business enterprise program, or a DBE program, and a transit asset management program in order to comply with the U.S. Department of Transportation and Federal Transit Administration regulations. Following the acceptance of the MOU at the with the CCITA this past board meeting, the CCITA, as the FTA's designated recipient for the Barnstable UZA, must ensure that grant funding subrecipients such as ourselves in the UZA comply with several U.S. Department of Transportation and FTA regulations, most specifically the Title VI, the DBE, and the TAM. In your packet is draft copies of each one of those programs. We feel that they're essentially in the form they need to be in. We have forwarded them to the CCITA for their review, as they have to sign off on it as well. So there may be some final edits that they may request, but substantially in the form attached to the staff summary is what we anticipate having. So there's a number of requirements that we have to do in terms of each one of these programs, and Mark and Terrence have done yeoman's work here the last 2 weeks trying to get these documents in order, and to listen to a extremely interesting multiple day webinar seminars on the subject. They're the subject matter experts if there's any questions regarding any of these programs, but at this point, the commitment that we have to the CCITA and the MOU was that we be getting these programs in place and approved before 12/31/2022, and thus they're in the packet for discussion and for hopefully for approval. So
I'm gonna save you because I'm not gonna have any questions.
I have one question. Having reviewed these extensive documents, clearly written with lots of legal advice. Since you've been to the courses, what changes will the Steamship Authority have to make in this operation to comply with these?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things, especially, well, I'll speak to the Title VI. So Title VI focuses on minority populations and as well as low income populations, and reaching out to them and providing them public transportation, obviously. One of the things under the Title VI program is one of the things we have to do is we have to do a better job of making translation services available to customers who may not have English as their first language. One of the interesting things that I found during all of this process was the number of folks who don't speak English as their first language out on Nantucket. And all this information is available in the breadth and scope of the 2020 census, which is enough to make your head spin once you sit down with it. But in any event, so that's one of the things we have to incorporate. So I've been speaking with Sean and Allison about, getting this information into the new website design, as well as making sure that, our signage is appropriate and lawful, and also looking at, what we currently do. Currently, we do have signage with regards to making people aware that we have a Title VI program. We do have one. This just makes it more formalized and makes it more in line with the regulations. So that's one of the things that we need to do.
And there's going to be
vineyard, more than 30% of our high school kids, English is not their first language.
Right. Yeah.
It's Brazilian.
Yeah.
And the nice thing, Jim, is that with modern technology now, compared to the program first rolled out, whether it's Google Translate on a tablet, they now have smart devices that will translate with the phone. You speak into it, and it translates to the language that you want to. So it's come a long way to make the transition easier for employees. With the DVE program, it's going to be a lot more, on bids with federally, it only applies to federally funded projects with bids, making sure that the reporting aspects are done. Outreach. There's going to be a lot more work on that aspect. And then on the transportation asset management plan, is, part of our budget process, we do the surveys, but now we have to do it in their format, in their assessment. So that's something that'll be a change for us as well.
This has got to be done before the end of the year.
Yep, and CCRT will submit it on our behalf. So we give it to them because they're oversight and they submit it to the federal government. Plans.
I mean, we need to hand this in for review, or do they need to approve it before the end of the year?
They have the plans, the drafts that you have, I emailed those out, and they're also based off of their plans. So they give us a copy of their plans and want to again thank the CCRTA team, Tom Cahere and Henry Sveniarski is the CFO. They've been great helping us transition into this. And basing our program off of their plans, it also makes their audit easier because we're doing what they're doing.
And this is a dynamic situation, so every year, we continually have to work with them throughout the year to come up with it, and then there's reporting triennially to the Federal Transit Administration. To make sure that everything is up to snuff, and one of the things that I've noticed is there's also an FDA review process as well that we could submit to, so.
Obviously, we need to approve this for the grant. I guess my question goes to who is responsible internally for implementing both the disadvantaged business and the Title VI, and are we having the complaint process, who's responsible for that, separate from the implementation of Title VI? And do you need any more resources in order to do this?
Ultimately, Bob's the responsible executive. In the packet, the DBE program, I'm going to be, until we have a grant person, the DBE liaison officer, who will handle all the complaints, make sure the compliance is there. Terrence is going to be the Title VI person for now. And then eventually, as we mentioned with the grant position, it's not just writing grants, it's making sure all these compliance is done. So it's really, that's where it's the grant administrative person, this person will be transitioning in. Ideal candidate is someone who's done this before. Step right in.
And do you need to amend or create new procedures, at least for the complaint process now?
Yes, in the packet, I think one of the simple things we need to do, Peter, is just simply create a website and an email address, and then have that email address directed to myself and have access to that. And that's something that we just simply need to do with the IT department.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Terrence, we already have the complaint forms out.
Yeah, we have
public in both Portuguese and English.
Right, and those forms right now, they basically just call the administration office and connect with myself, but
Yeah, I'm in full support of that. I just want to make sure you have enough resources to actually implement the policy.
well, I will say that, when we did these trainings, that we sat with a number of different transportation entities throughout the country. I was amazed at the number of resources that these folks have committed to these things because of the prevalence of the grants and the availability of the grants, and it's just definitely something that we need to be involved in.
Yeah, they have, these other agencies have departments that's all they do is deal with Title VI or DBEs and that, and
Well, and hopefully if we get more aggressive and get more grants, maybe we'll need to create a Title VI compliance office.
And right now in my team, Peter, we have people who already submit this data to the FTA, and both the assistant treasurer Courtney and as well as Tyler and Mark Anderson, the internal audit has been really helpful putting the raw data together for this. It's a team effort where everyone's picking up a little piece to try and get this over the finish line for now.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the lines of authority are clear, because I know that's what gets people in trouble usually under Title VI is when it's not implemented. Correct.
Well, that's the other thing, I don't want to leave the impression that we're doing this ourselves. I mean,
Right.
we're working in conjunction with the CCRTA, and they have their program well in place, and it's a good partnership that we have with them right now.
Maybe that's something to explore if we can have a shared or contract out our Title VI compliance officer, the CCRTA down the road.
And part of their responsibility is to be checking on us and auditing us and finding out if we're doing something wrong to make the corrective actions for us prior to the triennial review.
but there's certain elements, for instance, on the DBE program, most of our ends up being in preventive maintenance, in particular for dry docking is the big piece of it. And there are no DBE shipyards in the country. But so there's other areas that we're looking at in terms of being able to establish, some goals there in terms of establishing some DBEs, but as part of this is, what Mark found out here is that, they generally want to have agencies encourage DBEs by not requiring a bonding to be in place because they find that that's a hindrance for DBEs to be able to do. So we're looking at establishing that, if it's a project that's under $500,000, whether there should be, whether that aspect of it gets waived for a DBE. So that way, but obviously for a bigger project, we'd still want to have some sort of assurance. So.
And then it's in a lot of these projects that are using the funds, it requires a bigger timeline because we're gonna have to get it on the local transportation improvement plans. And get them approved, so we're gonna have to time these out. So it's different, but we'll get it done.
Okay, so do you need a vote from the Port Council on this or just the board?
I think if the Port Council wants to weigh in and then give that advice to the board.
Just pass to the board.
It's your pleasure.
Port Council, what do you all feel? We'll defer to the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion on this?
I'll move.
The motion made and seconded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes.
Thank you very much. So another aspect, and along the same vein, but slightly different. We're requesting the board approve the authority draft of an updated public transportation agency safety plan, or PTAS, which is required by the FTA for certain operators of public transportation. Back in July 2018, the FTA published the PTAS final rule. In December of 2020, the board reviewed and the original PTAS that was developed by the staff along with SMS LLC and approved its implementation. Following that, in September of 2021, the PTAS was revised to incorporate several recommendations received directly from the FDA. We submitted to the FDA for a voluntary review of our PTAS document. They came back with some suggested edits to that, which we accepted. But with the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, several changes to the PTAS is now needed in order to maintain compliance with FTA regulations. All effective transit operators must certify that they meet the new revised regulations by December 31st, 2022. So the staff is recommending that the members vote to approve the updated public transportation safety plan in the form substantially attached to this staff summary. The staff further recommends that the members vote also to authorize the general manager to take all necessary and appropriate actions to implement the updated PTAS in order to meet FTA requirements. So,
Well, hold on, let's run it through the Port Council first.
Thank you, sir. We have to do something here. Port Council, would you like to defer? Take a vote.
So
Take a vote. All right.
second,
Okay, discussion. All right, roll call vote, Mark.
yes.
Yes.
John Cahill, yes. Bud.
Bud Brielle, yes.
And
Aye.
thank you, everybody.
so the Port Council at their last meeting voted.
Okay, now do we have a motion?
No vote, sir.
Do we have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, that passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Treasurer's report.
Business summary for the month of October. John will pull it up on the screen. Okay, passengers carried for the month of October. The Vineyard route was up 3.6%. Nantucket was up 8%. Both routes combined were up about 11,000 passengers at 4.5%. Year to date, Both routes combined, we're up just over 160,000 passengers, or 6.7%. Here we can see the monthly comparison for both routes combined, comparing the 2 years. Passenger vehicles, or vehicles less than 20 feet. On the Vineyard route, we're down 464 vehicles, or 1%. Nantucket was up 88 vehicles, or 1.1%, in both routes combined. We're down 0.7%, or 376 vehicles. Year to date, we're down about 11,200 vehicles, or 2.1%. And it's the standard fares are down while the excursion fares are up. And that's balancing to historically where we've seen prior to COVID, as far as the percentages go. Is the monthly comparison for the passenger vehicles. Freight vehicles for the month of October. On the Vineyard route, we're up 13.3%. Nantucket was up 7.5%, and both routes combined were up 11.1%, or 772 vehicles. Year to date, we're up 4.6%, or just over 3,600 vehicles. Here's the graph. Cars parked, both routes combined, we're down about 415 cars at 2.8%, but year to date, we're up just over 8,200 cars, or 5.7%. Here's the chart showing the monthly comparison of our parking.
I have a question.
Sure.
Mark, what do you make out of the vehicles? The vehicle numbers there. We're not talking revenue, we're just talking volume.
For the month of October, the truck, if we go back, is that skewed because on the Vineyard route, and I went back to look because the number seemed high, is in 2021, we had 53 trips canceled for mechanical, weather related reasons on the Vineyard route. This year, we only had 10, and they're all with the governor. So that 42 trips is why you're seeing such a big increase for the month of October. If we compared it to 2020, it's only about a 5% increase.
Right, but if you go back to vehicles that are not freight trucks.
Mhm. Yep,
and
so,
that year-to-date number is interesting.
yep, so we're seeing the people, it's getting back where you see the excursions are back up and the standard fare are down.
Yeah.
Where with COVID, and even last year, there's some after effects of COVID where people had their secondary home where they're working more from. They might have been traveling with their car versus traveling in person. Things of that nature, where the people on the island weren't traveling as much compared to the second homeowner. Where they made their secondary residence almost their primary at that point. That's what I think was happening.
So if I can restate that, you think we're back to the types of vehicles less than 20 feet that we saw in 2019?
The distribution's close. I looked at that, and so I think during COVID, we're up like a 4 or 5% swing out of the normal range, and I think we're getting closer. And I can report back to the board next month or send an email out with what the percentages are. But I did look at that, but it's getting back to normal balance as far as the
What
percentage.
this means for forecasting going forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so the trip summary for the month of October, just mentioned, we only had on the Vineyard route 10 trips canceled for weather, none for mechanical. On the Nantucket route, we had 12 for mechanical, 56 for weather. In both routes combined, year to date, we have 130 trips for mechanical, 294 for weather, and 158 for traffic. Financial snapshot for the month of October, we had operating revenue of 11,102,000, which was higher than budget by 1,091,000. Other income was higher by 549,000. Other income of 549,000 was higher than budget by 300,000. Operating expenses were lower by 490,000. Putting this all together, we had a net operating income for the month of 1,870,000, which was higher than budget by 1,843,000. So on the budget, originally we were looking basically to break even, so we did better. Also this month, to report, we had capital grant, which is not in the income statement, but changes affects our net position. We had a capital grant received in the month of October for just over $1 million, and that was a part of the website project. So, year to date, net income of 22,383,000 was higher than budget by $4,801,000. Operating revenues, every category outside of the automobile revenue is up this year. Here's a breakdown of where the operating revenues come from. Operating expenses, big topic of conversation this year was fuel. So fuel for the month was up 20.6% versus budget, or 158,000. Year to date, we're up 739,000 or 10.7%. We budgeted $2.36 a gallon, and we're coming in around $2.69, even with the hedges. Breakdown of where the expenses are coming from. Since we're in December, here's the November passengers. We're up about 4.8% for November, about 8,500 passengers. Year to date, we're up 6.6% combined for both routes. And on the Vineyard route, we're down total vehicles, passenger and freight, 338 cars, and on the Vineyard route, 420 cars for November compared to last year. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Any questions?
Yes. Thank you. Just curious about October. I mean, obviously we had $1 million more revenue than we expected. Is this like the new October? Or is this an aberration?
We took with the budget, we used it based on the previous October, which was lower. You know, when we're forecasting, we don't know what month the storms are gonna come. You know, like we had a nor'easter last week, and we're gonna have another nor'easter coming this weekend, and you know, you're gonna get something, you just don't know where it's coming. So part of the October numbers are the previous years were not as well, and our budget policy has been real outside of COVID using the last 12 months of traffic. So that was one of the impacts. And then the passengers on the Nantucket run, the high speed has increased, you know, getting back to normal as well.
So it's not a demographic change.
No.
I think one of the, you know, Mark's pointed out that the October, those last 3 months of the year are actually based on, in large part on the 2020 traffic numbers. Because we would have used up till it would have been August of 2021. So going back 12 months, it would have been September of 2020 through. And I think he did try to make some adjustments to what those numbers were, but I think at the preparation of the 2022 budget, there's still a lot of unknown. So
even if you remember 2020 holidays, a lot of people weren't traveling anywhere, so those passenger numbers were low. But when we're doing the budget, would you have known if it was going to rebound or not?
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Rozum.
Thank you. Thank you, Bart.
Procurement.
all right. The Sainsbury's there. Bring him over. Good morning, John. Can you hear us? You muted.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Bob.
So John Sainsbury is with us today he's part of the evaluation team. He's been originally part of the HMS study group and has since has gone on his own as managing partner of Maritime Consulting Partners, working through them and with Gloucester. So in your packet is a request for the members to authorize the general manager to award contract number 14-2022 for consulting services to develop a strategic plan for the Steamship Authority to Raptilis Financial Consultants of Cincinnati, Ohio, in the amount of $230,000 as set forth in the consulting and financial proposal of the contract, and that's conditioned upon a successful clarification of certain provisions within that contract. So in July of this year, we issued a request for proposals for consulting firms to develop a strategic plan for the SSA with significant input from the authority's governing board and board council staff and constituent communities and other stakeholders in order to provide the Steamship Authority with a medium and long-term decision-making guidance and basis for measuring organizational performance as recommended in the HMS study. So as provided in the RFP, I designated John Sainsbury, again, founder and managing partner of Maritime Consulting Partners, Sean Driscoll, and Stephen Sayers to review and evaluate the proposals based on a non-price criteria. The 4 non-price criteria elements were background information, experience developing strategic plans for organizations, proposed performance of consulting services, and the proposed contract without any financial information. Mr. Sainsbury, Driscoll, and Sayers then prepared their evaluations of the 5 firms that submitted proposals. First, with respect to each of the 4 evaluation criteria, they specified a rating for each one being either highly advantageous, not advantageous, or unacceptable, and a reason for each one of those ratings. They then gave each one of these proposals a composite rating, stating the reasons for their rating, and finally, they also described what revisions that they would propose for the SSA to obtain prior to awarding the contract. The evaluations were completed and finished on October 24th, and those are included in your meeting packet today. The ultimate composite rating ended up being Raptilus received a highly advantageous, Elliott Bay Design Group advantageous, S. Sutton and Associates advantageous, LBL Strategies not advantageous, and Martin Ottaway not advantageous. Following those evaluations, the Steamship Authority's Procurement Officer Peggy Nickerson and I, along with Mr. Sainsbury, Driscoll, and Sayers, opened the financial proposals, which Raptilus was at $230,000. Elliott Bay was $384,750. Sutton and Associates was $186,793.75. LBL Strategies was $268,327, and Martin Ottaway was $207,200. So pursuant to the RFP, I tasked Mr. Sainsbury, Driscoll, and Sayers to then rank 3 finalists for the contract, taking into consideration the price as well as the evaluations. All of us agreed that Raptilus Financial Consultants was our choice for the top ranked finalist for the contract. And for the reasons their proposal, the consulting proposal was the only proposal to receive a highly advantageous composite rating, taking into account non-financial data. Their financial proposal is only $43,206 higher than the $186,793 submitted by Sutton and Associates, whose consulting proposal only received an advantageous. We all were of the opinion that the additional cost will represent good value in what, based on the proposal that Raptilus has provided. Raptilus's proposal of $230,000 was at least $154,750 less than the proposal submitted by Elliott Bay Design Group, which was similarly rated as advantageous overall. So it came out that Raptilus ended up being the clear choice to award the contract. And if it is awarded the contract, there should be no problem in entering into a written agreement with Raptilus based on the proposed contracts as submitted with the consulting services. So I don't know whether Sean, whether you have anything that you'd like to add regarding the process and the proposals that were received, and John in particular, the expectations on what we should have received versus what we did.
Yes, Bob, John Sainsbury here, and I'll just reiterate what Bob said is that of the 5 proposals that were received, they were all good proposals and it had strengths and weaknesses, but Raftellus definitely stood out as the one proposal that really met the objectives for what the Steamship Authority is looking for in this strategic planning endeavor. So definitely agree that it was the strongest and was priced accordingly.
John, just based on our conversations, can you review with the board and port council what the objectives were? Because I think there's some discussion and confusion about, you know, how detailed this is supposed to be and what this process is supposed to achieve versus a more detailed review of our leader operations or something like that. Can you kind of set the stage for everyone as far as what, it's been long enough now since the report came out, what the strategic plan is actually trying to achieve?
Yes, Sean, that's a really good point. And coming out of the report that I was involved in with HMS in Gloucester, one of the primary recommendations was to instill a strategic planning culture at the Steamship Authority. The key point there is that this was a long-term view on strategic planning, not the short term of just performing a single strategic plan for 20, 30, 40 years out and then leaving it at that. The long-term objective was, let's shift the culture at the Steamship Authority to really embrace strategic planning as something that they do on a regular basis. And so with that in mind, the objective of this procurement was to identify an experienced consulting group that could come in and help get the ball rolling basically in the short term, with the long-term view of kind of establishing the baseline for strategic planning and helping the management staff at Steamship Authority, learn how to do that to continue it moving on, in perpetuity as part of their culture. So, so unlike some organizations that have, a mandate to do long-term strategic plans every 20 or so years, where those strategic plans are done by outside consultants and there's really no hands-on effort from the staff. This was very different, and the objective here is to get the staff really involved in the process so that they can then take it over and continue it moving forward.
Follow up, and I guess this is John to you. I appreciate all that, and please don't be insulted when I call it consultant speak. What are the deliverables that we should expect from this plan?
Not at all insulted. That's but that's a very good question. And the deliverable is a short-term strategic plan, 3 to 5 year horizon, to identify what areas that the organization, the Steamship Authority, needs to address in order to meet the needs of their ridership in the near-term future. And this deliverable would then be set up so that staff could monitor their progress towards those objectives.
If I might follow up, so the focus is only on addressing the ridership in terms of the strategic plan and not the benefit of the Commonwealth and the port communities. I mean, my concern, and I know this has been raised by the Martha's Vineyard Commission and the Falmouth Energy Committee, is that the strategic plan doesn't address that we need a strategic plan that'll address kind of the Commonwealth's emission reduction goals. And so if we're just focused on the ridership, as the ridership, only the Vineyard residents, Nantucket residences, residents of their respective communities being affected by coastal change, that seems rather myopic to me. If we're developing a large policy state.
And let me just say that was a generalization on my part. When I say ridership or the issues of the ridership, it's really all inclusive. I should have used the term stakeholders. So it doesn't make any assumptions going in that one group is going to receive the most attention. It is the process is designed to look at what are the issues facing the organization. And it taps into all stakeholders involved and then attempts to develop a strategy to meet those, to correct those issues.
John, in reviewing this, I wish I had an overview of what was just given of what we're trying to accomplish. And I couldn't gather that from any of the reviews of these different consultants of where we're heading and what we're actually trying to accomplish. It just didn't come to me. I looked at all of them, and typical of these type of responses, much of it is the boilerplate, taking your things of consultant type of talk, and I'm looking for some nuts and bolts. And one of the questions that I had came up at the end when you're doing Elliott Days, and when it came to being a cost-driven decision, which I was focusing on for myself, that I was looking for consultants that had actually had hands-on experience on boat, ships, ferries, and whatever. And all of the other ancillary things, I couldn't detect what they were all going to do. If that sounds confusing, that's because it was confusing. Right. And I don't know, being a fairly pragmatic type of person, I would think cost-driven decisions is basically what we've been doing and will be doing when it comes to expanding on electric boats and things like that. If you don't have the money, you can't do it, and you won't be able to do it until you have the money. And there'll be just a finite amount of money coming in each year, because really our ridership doesn't expand that greatly each year, and it varies and whatever. So, cost driven is to me is primary. And so maybe you can straighten me out and what would be the difference of you said you do not believe this is the most beneficial approach for this steamship authority at this point. So what is the most beneficial in language that I can understand? That question?
No, good question. Did you catch that, John? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. If I'll do my best to answer. Of the 5 proposals received, they kind of fell into 2 buckets. One bucket consisted of 3 proposals that were really focused on what I spoke to earlier about kind of changing the culture at the Steamship Authority to think more strategically, plan strategically across everything they do. The other bucket really included 2 proposals from Elliott Bay and Martin Ottaway that were more focused on, as you kind of said, the nuts and bolts, the technical aspects of the organization. And while that is important, that doesn't really address the issue that was identified in our initial report. And that is something that needs to be done. Fleet planning, capital planning is really what that was, how I would characterize those proposals. That is something that needs to be done, but you really can't do that until you determine your strategic direction of your organization. In other words, what does that need to look like? What does your fleet makeup need to look like to meet the strategic direction of your organization? So in my view, the first step is really to follow the path that that other bucket is focused on, which is establishing this strategic planning culture at the organization. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry if I went on there.
I'm trying to figure out what this culture actually is gonna boil down to, so. But yes, thank you for, your answer.
I can tell them what it is. Well,
I'm a little, John, this is Rob Munir, I'm on the port council, so maybe it's not our purview from the perspective of voting on the contract, but you said that you were embracing the idea that the one that you were awarding to was about the culture and the need to change the culture, but then the deliverable is a short-term strategic plan, and I'm having trouble connecting those dots, and I really embrace your idea of embracing a strategic planning culture more so than a short-term strategic plan. And I guess I put that in the context that it was, I just happened to notice 4 years ago to the day, the HMS made this recommendation. And in those 4 years, we've bought boats, we've built a terminal, we've done a New Bedford study, we've done sustainable ships, all things that had we had strategic planning in place, might have been done in a more cohesive way. And I'm not saying those are bad decisions, but so I'm all for embracing the notion of creating a culture of strategic planning. And then within that, you have the details of how you might then move forward in any specific activity. I guess that would be my point. But John, just to my specific question about connecting the dots between those two statements you made, one being culture and the other being a specific 3-year or 5-year strategic plan.
Yes,
and that agrees with everything I just said.
Yeah, so the objective here is, if you were taking the more capital planning approach, you would end up with a very long-term 20, 30 plus year strategic plan that you would then need to revisit, every 5 or so years. This approach is, when I say short term, that's just kind of the first step. So we're tapping into the expertise of these consultants who, are very proficient at doing this process, strategic planning process. We're tapping into their expertise to get the ball rolling, to get a short-term plan in place and really teach us how to implement this process so that the staff at the Steamship Authority can then continue that. And so instead of having a long-term 20-year outlook, you are continuously going back and revising your short-term plans, if that makes sense. You're every 3 to 5 years, you're continuing this process and you're updating it on an annual basis. So it becomes more of a consistent part of your culture rather than every 5 years, you're just adjusting kind of this long-term plan.
So maybe just as a follow-up point, it's pretty easy to measure a deliverable like a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. Have it, here it is. It's a little harder to measure the culture, and I think that should be a part of what a deliverable would be how do you in fact measure the success of that part of your objective?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's also very difficult to measure something like culture, right? So that happens over time. And the measurement of it is the organization putting these things in place? Are they monitoring their progress against this plan that they adopted? And are they revisiting it on an annual basis and updating it as things change, which is always the case?
Yeah, no, I totally understand it. The second metric is harder than the first metric, but that would be the kind of thing that the consultant could help to provide us guidance.
Mr. Lowell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. John, don't take me the wrong way. I'm a simple micro kind of guy that lives in Nantucket, generational native. And there is not much I haven't seen, good and bad. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little sort of overview of what everyone else is saying or trying to say. Has any of these consultants ever lived here for 1 year and experienced the incredible confusing issues that pop up being a traveler of these boats? I guarantee they haven't. Okay. This isn't Fenway Park today versus 30 years ago. You know, the experience, the sort of the, you know, we have to understand, you have to accept that we are a transportation company that brings everything imaginable back and forth, and we have fires to put out every couple days. There's something. The fires are going to happen no matter what. And those fires lead to goals and objectives, plans to fix things, to help solve problems. Like locals that live here, you know what they want? They want the boat to run. They want the boat to run. They want to know when it isn't running. They want to know if it's going to cancel so they can go make a hotel reservation and get something to eat it, not your average Joe's. That's what they want. They want their car parking space at the Iyannough Road. They want the gate to go up when they stick their car in. They don't want it to be closed. They want to be able to renew their permit every year without having to text me or Rob why they can't do it. That's what they want. We're never going to have beautiful food on the boats. We're not going to have this experience like it's a cruise ship. Okay, that type of stuff. Okay, what we need, and I always tease Bob and them when I talk about this, we need a yes department, because that's the culture problem with the steamship. It's so hard to say the word yes. Okay, it's actually the most difficult thing to do. So when I hear all this stuff, I'm involved with the town. We have a strategic plan. We've got the Novak people. The stuff they talk about is all things that you can't really quantify. And I understand your role. I understand your job. I understand what this is all about. You don't have to explain it. I get it. I understand it. But I will tell you that simple planning, simple improvements, long range and short range, medium range is really the best answer. It has been. It's just, in today's world, there's so many different moving parts that you have to address that it creates the need for outside help. And I'm not saying outside help is wrong. I think it's been very good in a lot of ways. Some of them you can see now from 2018. But I'll give you one that didn't work. The vessel life report. That has got us in such a pickle with so many different issues that have come up. And that's the one that drives me the craziest, because the best boats we have are the oldest ones. As far as reliability, easy to repair. It's not a car. It's not a pickup truck that's falling apart. Boats are not like that. And I'm not trying to tell you that you're wrong. I'm not trying to persuade not to vote for this contract. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that we have a pretty good set of people here that know what's going on. A little bit of help here and there is a good thing, but you're not gonna create the Princess Cruise Lines at the Steamship Authority. I can tell you that. We just need to be more customer service oriented, friendlier, and caring. And that's what the public wants, especially the people that ride the boat every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, this is to you. And it's sort of a distillation of some of the stuff you've already heard, but since I'm 74 years old and I'm tired and grumpy, to cut to the chase, I've done a fair amount of work all over the world. Culture change is hard to impossible, in my experience with organizations. And so if you're telling us that the goal of a strategic plan here is culture change with the Steamship Authority, how many groups of this size have you worked with where you affected culture change?
I'm not going to disagree with you in any way, shape, or form about culture change. It is not easy. The way that I've seen it be effective is when it's done piece by piece, that's very focused on one objective, right? In this case, okay, we want to change the culture to more strategic planning. That's one objective. And when you want to change that, you just focus on that. Okay. And the second piece to it is that it's done in a way that the staff is involved. It's not done for them. They have to be involved in the process. And they have to then see the effective outcome of that process. Because if they're not part of it and they don't see it, then they don't understand the value of it, and it doesn't happen, right? So that's why, we've recommended this approach, rather than having just consultants come in, do a strategic plan and say, here you go, this is your strategic plan. It's very collaborative approach here. And what they're going to do is they're going to see the process. So going back to a point that Nat was making, is this is really about that process of getting to the essence of what is needed at the Steamship Authority. And whether that's, I said the ridership as a very generalized term. Let's just say stakeholders in general, right? There's a lot of different stakeholders involved, but how do you get to what those needs are? And what these consultants can help you with is that process. They can show you that process that works. And once the Steamship Authority understands that, sees it in action, and sees how effective it can be, then they can carry that forward. But they have to see that value, and they have to be part of the process.
John Bob Jones, going back, when we hired your group and stuff to come up with their the recommendations and the 10 points and things like that, and the various departments that we have established and our positions and things of this nature, weren't we driving towards a strategic plan at that point? I don't know. I agree with a strategic plan, so I'm not against that. But I look at the Steamship Authority, and in the 20 years that I've been involved between the Port Council and the board, you know, I've seen the construction of 3 new ships, and the complete overhaul of Woods Hole, which is still ongoing. Parking lots, you know, with permeable pavement and electric buses and things of this nature. You know, would we have started this thing 20 years ago and say, okay, we're gonna get electric buses, we're gonna get this thing? I think we're living the strategic plan and we're getting it done before it even becomes strategic plan. And whatever's gonna happen for the electrification of the ships and things like that, I mean, that's where we'll be heading. Without anybody telling us this is a strategic plan. And now we're getting 4 new ships and things like that. I mean, and on top of that, we haven't had a deficit in 60 years. I think we're on top of our game, and how much better can we get with the strategic plans? So I don't know, maybe that's just an editorial comment. That's all.
Thank you, Chair. We can probably discuss the merits plus and minus on this opportunity. But I think overall, it's something that should wait till, my opinion, is wait till we have that COO position filled. Because how are we going to implement this? Who's going to be around to do it? We already know you guys are going to be extremely busy. You got 4 new boats, you got a terminal running, being built, and no COO. So that'd be my position. Thank you.
Yes.
I'd just like to point out that I think what we're trying to achieve here is putting together the difference between or connecting the mission statement of the authority and the work that Bob already does, and putting together objectives or goals, objectives that he wants to meet on an annual basis. What's missing is the overall policy goals that provide direction to the staff as what we want to accomplish. So for example, one policy goal would be to provide the best customer service that we can provide. And then Bob would then come up with objectives that would meet those overall goals. So the purpose of this study is to provide tools to the board to develop these goals and to modify these goals on an annual basis. And then similar to that, Bob would then take those broad goals and break them down into objectives that would move forward. So the overall purpose as I see it is, let's give staff broad goals and review them on an annual basis, so we don't forget what we're here for, and then provide that as a direction to staff to begin chipping away at accomplishing those goals.
I just second that, and I think that sums up kind of where I'm at with this. I think it's been too long since the HMS report that we haven't implemented a strategic plan. I think we, as a board, need a strategic plan so that we're setting policy rather than reacting. Share Mr. Cahill's concern about the COO. So my hope and is that COO is on board before activity 1 begins under this contract, if it's approved in terms of the scope of work. But you know, I think we've been disadvantaged not having a strategic plan. We don't have a unified message that the legislature can look at when we're asking for more bonding capacity. And I think with the strategic plan in place, the board's in a better position to evaluate the authority's performance as well, and then trickle down the general manager's performance with some meaning as to metrics. So while I share some of the concerns about this, I think looking at the scope of work and the board's involvement, I would hope that the board council isn't mentioned in the scope of work, but I presume they will be a stakeholder, and I know the board can make sure that that happens in terms of it. I think we need to move forward with this. We've waited too long.
Is that a motion?
I move.
Yes, what was it?
Say it again.
I move to approve the procurement.
Approve it.
Approve it.
Thank you.
Is there
I
a
second it.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yep,
Now we're approving their recommendation for the consultants.
to develop a strategic plan.
Correct.
Okay, so that's a done deal.
Yeah, there's a pour it out.
Or are they not successful? Yeah.
Correct. Okay, next.
Thank
Okay, well, we've got that off our chest.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, John. Nice to see you.
All right, so next item we have. Request the members authorize the general manager to award contract number 16-2022. Which is dry dock and overhaul services for the MB governor to the lowest eligible responsible bidder. Following the bid opening, which is scheduled for this Friday, December 16th. Originally, when this was put out onto the street, the board meeting was scheduled for the 20th, and so we had scheduled the opening prior to that 20th meeting, but then the meeting was changed to today. So the governor is expected shipyard availability starting March 14th through April 14th of 2023 for a hull exam, rudder, propeller, shaft maintenance, coating maintenance, and structural steel renewal in the main decks, as well as overhaul of the bow thruster. The 2023 operating budget estimate for the dry dock and overhaul services for the governor, including those items, was $1,040,600. We've sent bid packages to 13 shipyards, but we're looking now for the board to authorize the general manager to award the contract 16-2022 dry dock and overhaul services to the MB governor to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder following this the bid opening scheduled for December 16th, 2022. If we were to wait until the January meeting, there's some long lead time items and schedule availability in terms of the dock. So we don't feel that postponing this until after the actual bid is received. So
I would move that we move forward on this, and if the bids come in your opinion, that are ridiculous, that we not sign them and then bring it up in another meeting, which I don't believe is gonna happen.
We have a second?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
thank you.
Next,
Next, seeking authorization to execute a statement of work for digital platform post-launch support agreement with ADK Group LLC in the amount of $348,000. You may recall at the November 2021 meeting, the board authorized the award of the contract to ADK Group for the redesign of this Steamship Authority's website and development of a mobile application. That contract was for $1,996,554. Following the scheduled launch of the website and app on or about March 15th of 2023, the authority would wish to retain ADK Group for ongoing support as well as strategic growth services. As part of the statement of work that ADK has provided, they'll assign a team, including a project coordinator, a principal architect, a digital strategist, a front-end developer, and a quality analyst to execute platform maintenance, strategic development, and optimize efforts. This ongoing support agreement would be in effect 90 days after the launch of the website for a period of 12 months, and then could be renewed in a consecutive 6-month period or longer if both parties agree. The monthly cost for this service is $29,000 a month. As a information point, we currently are spending $13,000 a month with the current website support services, or $151,000. And when we first rolled out the current website, we were paying on average about $308,000 for continued support and also further development. So these are in line with that. In your packet, it includes a memorandum from Regan Digital Studio President David Jensen, who stated that the ADK was a natural fit to provide the ongoing support, given their familiarity with the authority's reservation system, the customer insights, and the current technology adoption. Also noted that the maintenance and support options are in line with what expected cost to maintain a website, and mobile app, and API gateway would be. So we're recommending that the members authorize the general manager to execute a statement of work for digital platform post-launch support agreement with ADK Group LLC in the amount of $348,000, starting 90 days after launch for a term of 12 months.
Motion, question?
I have a question, or do you want the motion?
Shoot your question.
So first question is, if I heard correctly during the website mobile app update, we are only going to launch in a beta format in March. So when is the true launch, the non-beta launch? And in terms of this statement of work and support agreement, what constitutes post-launch? Is it the beta? Is it this yet to be determined date when we're in a non-beta launch?
The launch would be considered the day that you go to steamshipauthority.com and it's the new website. So under the terms of the contract for the redevelopment, 90 days after that date is still covered by the contract we're working on now, the development contract. And then we would go into the post-launch support. So, I mean, Terrence hasn't reviewed the statement of work yet because we haven't had authorization from the board to proceed, but we'll work in there that it will be 90 days from whatever date it is that we flip that switch and the main URL redirects to the new site. So it'll be fluid in the statement of work as to when that it's 90 days from that date, not from the beta launch.
The 90 days, it was the benchmark, for the end, for the additional work, is this anticipated work? Or is, because we don't know what's gonna happen, or?
We anticipate after launch that the majority of the work will be spent addressing issues on the new site. Once that once that starts to get ironed out, then the hours that they have to spend will be able to go towards future work and development. So it's a set number of hours each month. What they spend it on will depend on what the issues are that we're facing it at that time.
I guess I'm wondering why, when we launch this, we know on anything you do, I mean, your aftermath is sometimes very, I can say confusing and difficult to ascertain, but I'm wondering why we need to go another, 90 days thereafter to make sure.
Well, that's part of the current contract. The first 90 days after launch is covered under our current contract, and then after that point is an ongoing support system. So regardless if we have 1,000 things to fix or one thing to fix, the first 90 days of support is covered under what we're already paying. And then this kicks in after that.
I'm just hoping there's not gonna be anything, I mean,
Well, if there's
We-
not,
well-
if we hope so as well, and if that's the case, then they can get started on phase 2 items immediately versus, addressing, but either way, even after you build the boat, you don't not do maintenance on it immediately. I mean, there's a period of ongoing maintenance, even for the best website that never goes away or feature development.
needs a shakedown cruise.
Yeah.
So I guess my concerns or reservations about this, one, I have this ongoing concern reservation that the statement of work includes the strategic growth and road mapping. And once again, we're having the outside consultant that developed the website mobile app, then to evaluate themselves, their product in a sense, and its implementation. I think as Mr. Malcolm has expressed several times, consultants have a way of trying to embed themselves into their clients. And then it seems to me rather premature to come to the board with this now, when we are talking about the work not kicking in for 180 days plus. If we're not launching in beta until March, and the current contract lasts another 90 days. And if it's because we want to stay with 80K and they might become busy, we're not talking about work that a million other vendors also perform and would be interested in bidding on.
Ben, I've got Ben Kaplan from ADK here. Ben, can you speak to the first point about your evaluation of post-launch and Peter's concern on that?
Sure, happy to. Ben Kaplan, client partner at ADK.
Would you mind?
Can you step up here?
yeah.
So that
Up to the hot seat.
Yeah.
I'll preface this by saying I've not prepared any statements. So we will not be evaluating ourselves. I think I've certainly discussed with Sean bringing in a third-party agency to perform a full audit of the site and the mobile app. That's a fairly standard industry practice to bring in a comparable agency to perform the audit. The strategic growth and road mapping purposes, the strategic growth and road mapping component have a very specific purpose. We've worked with Sean and presented to Bob some very specific ideas around how we can continue to grow the site, build out what Sean referred to as phase 2 items, to further improve the experience, to get really tactical and sort of use the platform that we've built to address some of the very specific challenges that folks face. The allocation in the monthly budget is really to devote a technologist's time to coming up with specific sort of plans to implement those.
And to your point about the timing, certainly, we had discussed that, we could put this into January. The reason I brought it forth now was A, that we got the change order dealt with last month instead of this month, and B, that the team that ADK is proposing includes very senior people who are currently working on the project, who I want to ensure continue to work on the project, which is why I'm bringing this to you now. I don't have any doubt that if we waited 5 months, ADK would continue to want to work with us. I want to make sure that the team we've got stays our team. And that the continuity there, I think, is very valuable. That's why I asked Bob to put this on the agenda this month.
Right. You're the hands-on guy.
I guess I'm reluctant when we keep on pushing the launch date has been pushed. And then to have us looking beyond the launch. I want the heavy lifting to get done so that we launch in March and not disincentivize you to get that done.
It will not disincentivize. It, there's no way I could possibly be disincentivized to launch the website.
I guess that, I'll defer to the rest of the board. I would prefer to table this again, to kick the can down the road again, because I'm not prepared to support it.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I'm not sure it is necessarily wise to kick the can down the road, although I understand where it's coming from. And with technology, this is as far as I can go. When I can't get these things to run. So I am completely lost. But I've got to rely on our staff and the people who have done, working on this program here. So I'm inclined to support the request. Is that a motion? I would make that motion. Oh, Mr. Davis.
Well, and I understand, the concern that, this is something that's going to be taking, going into effect at the, midpoint next year, type thing, but the issue is, and John touched on it slightly, was that, some of the senior people that are assigned to this, to be able to keep that continuity as some of these key members of the team, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but, to be able to, know that, they're not just working, what's the project this week? They're looking at projects that are, out months in advance, and be able to have that, that continuity is, I think, is going to be beneficial. So that way, if there isn't, any improvements that we need to make, or, phase two items that we want to work on, that we know where we are in terms of this is what the platform is for our website and going forward. So.
Mr. Falcon.
I think it might be reasonable and a way to accomplish both of these issues that are there. We're going into what I call the silly season, meaning the Christmas and the holidays, when not much happens in many places of work. And if we were to defer this till our next meeting in January, I don't think we'd be losing very much in terms of what's going on in the industry in general.
What would we buy? I said, what will we be buying? What will be changing?
I think it might be the concerns that Peter has raised in terms of getting us a bit further down the road. And I think it might also, I don't think, from my own experience, I don't think you jeopardize much over the Christmas New Year's holiday in terms of work volume at various institutions.
Well, I still support it.
I can understand, some of this approach, but again, without having any discussions with Ben about this, obviously, they're actively looking for new clients and things like that. So, to be able to, tie some of these people up, knowing that, they were key members for the development of the project at this point. I don't think that's going to change. That won't change. I don't think that's going to change our opinion, whether it's this month or next month. I guess the question is are we better off in the long term, locking these in, because we are going to be needing ongoing support. It's, every website that we've had, we need ongoing support, and be able to have the key members of that team involved is beneficial from management's perspective. So.
Just a question, and maybe I don't know if I address that to Sean or to Ben, but maybe to help resolve some of the concerns that the board has is do we add to the motion that no billable hours by senior management at ADK would happen until the website would launch?
No, this, yeah, and that's fine. This contract won't go into effect until 90 days after launch. So
Right.
this work will not detract from the development whatsoever. So
So from a financial standpoint, we get that clear in front of the board, it might be a softening.
and that's a correct statement that we wouldn't be spending money on ongoing support until after the website contract is concluded. That I think. Yeah, so it's not, we're not spending money at the same time.
Right.
We won't start spending money until 90 days after launch. Right.
Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Like not.
Why couldn't we get some guarantee that this group that's working on it now will stay working on it till January at the next meeting? If they want the contract. In other words, the crew that you have working. Give us some guarantee that when this is voted on in January, it'll be the same crew that would be working on it 90 days after March.
So the I think that there are two components of this. So there are sort of two sides to the ongoing support team that we're proposing. There's the the direct website support team, which I think it was Mr. Jeffrey, you're exactly right. For the type of website support team that we're proposing, the board could approve that contract several months from now, and we would be happy and eager to supply that team. The specific challenge that we're facing, and this relates to the other component of the contract, which are these planning services. A couple of very senior members of our team have embedded with the authority's IT team very substantially. We've done a lot of work with the IT team. It's been a very fruitful relationship. We've been able to work hand in hand to make a number of improvements that'll that add to the resiliency and the maintainability of the new website. My chief concern is these very senior folks, one in particular, the principal architect of the website. We have a number of clients who sort of have annual retainers which renew in the new year. To Mr. Malkin's point, we're sort of in contracting and resourcing season right now, trying to plan for the next year, and getting this approved before the new year helps me to have those conversations internally and make sure that I de-risk that transition, even though it is so far out. It's for a couple of these very senior resources that have been so involved.
Yeah, I think he said a word that I was going to say, which is risk, and I think this is about risk management. The idea that we have sort of this engaged, because this is a high risk project. We all recognize that. And I think we respect the fact that Sean has, as much as I don't like schedules getting pushed, he wants this to really be successful. If it's not successful, the alternative is really bad. I think this is about.
Thanks, Rob.
This is about risk management.
You didn't mention it.
And I guess I would just ask one question for sure, and that's, is there like a key person's clause in the contract that stipulates exactly the people we're talking about, so that in fact there is that obligation?
Well, we haven't signed up on we won't sign up on the statement of work until we get authorization from the board. And I don't know if the statement of work specifies those individuals or the boards. Can you speak to that then? How that would be structured?
It does not currently, but that should be a conversation that we have.
Okay.
This meeting. Thank you.
Second, Mr. John's motion.
I was gonna move the motion.
So now we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, new and old business. We have a list of officers for 2023 for the court council.
So, then Mr. Cahill can jump in, but basically, in the packet, there was a update in terms of the tradition that has taken place for the Port Council, as well as how the corporate bylaws for the Port Council come into play. Basically, right now, the bylaw, the Article 4, Section 2 provides that the chairmanship should rotate. It cannot be, the chairmanship can't be the same chair as the incoming board member. So in this case, Mr. Rainey will be the authority's chair next year. So Mr. Lowell is not eligible to serve as chair of the Port Council. But beyond that, they're open to nominations. And they also have a tradition of trying to rotate the chairmanship as opposed to having it remain with one individual, although that has been suspended on a number of occasions. So it's up to the Port Council.
So knowing that the person that stands between now and lunch, I'll keep this brief. I'd like to make a nomination to the board on Port Council that we appoint or have the honor of Joe Salita be our Port Council chair for next year.
Second.
Any discussion?
The enthusiasm, but it's.
I can make a Sherman-like statement.
All right, seeing no discussion, how about a roll call vote? Matt?
Aye.
But aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Rob? Aye. Joe?
Aye.
Cahill, aye.
Hard luck.
Stepping up.
So now you need to have a vice chair.
Is it, okay, I thought we might want to let Joe decide who that is in the first of the year after he's had further conversations, or do I need to appoint one today? Go for it.
Go for it today. Take your recommendation.
All right, now, I think I'm just gonna go back to last year when Matt Lowell stepped up and appointed me as nominated to be the chair. But he's not- I think I should appoint him as vice chair.
Second.
That's not looking too happy.
Send my food over on the boat.
Roll call vote, or any discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, we'll start with Matt.
Aye.
Thank you, Matt. Bud?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Cahill, aye. Thank you.
Next would be secretary.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I'll
All right,
make a motion for John Cahill to be secretary for 2023.
way back. Any
Second.
seconds on that?
Second that.
All right, roll call vote,
But aye.
sorry. Matt?
Lowell, aye.
Mark?
Mark, aye.
Joe?
Joe, aye.
Rob?
Rob, aye.
Cahill, aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Got out of there clean, but.
If I could make one comment here, the Port Council is a viable instrument in the Steamship Authority. I think you guys have done an outstanding job, and I always like the exchange of in conversation of the Port Council. When I came on here, that dialogue, that back and forth things, really is, we're sticking pretty much to the facts and the figures. Whereas I miss that immensely. And, but I just want to, thank you for the work that you did, and you did a great job as chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a little comment to follow up on Bob?
Sure,
If
why
you don't
not?
mind, just something, just a little, Bob's been around longer than me. But I'm right behind him. And I just want to say that with Bob Huss's passing and George's passing, the people that have taken over for the Vineyard leadership couldn't have been better. And I really mean that. Rob and I, talk about these things all the time, but when you hear somebody like Bob Jones say what he just said, it matters. And we've come a long way since the 1999, I believe, was the year of the big change and enabling legislation. Wasn't it, Bob? Wasn't it 99 or 2000?
2002.
2002. Well, it all started in 98, 99 to get to that. I can tell you that. 'Cause that's when I was going to the Vineyard all the time and figured out that they had one traffic light. It's gone now. That's gone now, by the way. So, and it means a lot. This is a family type atmosphere. That's something that I really miss about going to Woods Hole and the concrete box building. But I do love Zoom. But when it sort of fits into this whole consultant conversation. I mean, this is a unique organization that is really about taking care of the public as best we possibly can. And the islands are complete polar opposites in their needs. And I think that is lost with, and I don't mean, this is not a negative statement, but it's lost in the general conversation from people that are new. I'm not talking about board members. I'm talking about outside, people, whatever they're doing for us. They just can't understand it until you live it. And that's so important. So I just wanted to echo Bob's points and throw in a couple things of my own, especially with Bob Huss's recent passing. We need to reflect that a little bit. Thank you.
Next item is offices for the board for 2023.
You gonna give us a preview?
The chair would normally be announcing that in accordance with the Authorities Enabling Act, the authorities, Nantucket board member, Mr. Rainey, would automatically become the chair, the authorities chair for the year 2023. Congratulations, Rob.
Thank you.
The Enabling Act also requires us to elect one of the members to be vice chair and another member to be secretary.
So I will take a motion to elect Barnstable board member, Mr. Jones, to be the authority's vice chair for the upcoming year 2023.
Second. Or I move.
Motion, is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Jones. Now we need a secretary. So I will entertain a motion to elect the Dukes County board member, Mr. Malcolm.
I'll move.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Congratulations, Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Can I ask a quick question on the enabling act? I know that the enabling, maybe it's been amended, but states that we are supposed to elect a treasurer, but the treasurer need not be of the board.
So,
How do we address that?
a number of years ago, the treasurer comptroller was named. In this case, it previously had been Wayne, myself, now Gerard, now Mark. So when Mark was named as treasurer, it was to serve until the board so chooses not to have him serve as treasurer. So that does not require an election each year.
I don't have any issue with Mark serving as treasurer. I just was curious as to that.
It did for a number of years. Every year, the treasurer had to be nominated and appointed. That's when the title of comptroller was added to the title because of the oversight of all the financial records, and then it became that the it was, the treasurer would serve until the board so chose not to.
I guess food for thought for the board, that I think maybe at some point to exercise their fiduciary duties, we might think about if we have input into the evaluation of the treasurer, just so that we're exercising our fiduciary duties, but that has nothing to say about your performance. And there's nothing worse than being the treasurer for a board.
Thank
you.
Lunch.
First, we have public comment. Is there any public comment?
Well, I guess there was drafts of the schedules and for the port council, if there was any issues there, I would point out that January 3rd is the day following the holiday would be on the New Year's Day is on Sunday, so the holidays on the Monday, so whether port council still wants to meet on the 3rd or whether they want to select a different date.
It's fine.
Will it remain Tuesday for the whole year?
It's Tuesday, it's the first Tuesday, with a couple of exceptions. July, it's the second Tuesday because the 4th is on a Tuesday, and the September one because of Labor Day was pushed out.
I don't know what's the agreement with the board. It's fine. It's fine with me. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll keep it on.
Okay. And then next item would be the proposed dates for the upcoming year for the board.
I would just make one comment that I made last year and the year before. Is, I would hope, and I'm praying, is that once we establish this schedule, we stick to it as much as possible. We all know things come up. But I make, and I'm sure all of you people are involved in different. I make my schedule around the Steamship Authority schedule. And a couple of boards I'm on that I have to run and things like that. If I have to go to authority meeting, which I have a priority in my life, I have to disrupt, a whole board's schedule. So I'm just hoping when we say this and approve it, that we do all we can to stick to it. So, please. So.
I will point out that we took the liberties to combine the dates for the December meeting for the port council and the board. If this joint meeting going forward, whether that makes sense.
It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, now let's go to public comment, if there is any. Public comment. Yeah.
Ahoy, Rich.
Ahoy.
Why?
Two questions, if I may. Following an analysis by the MV Times video review team, being informal here, we found that in two different videos we saw counterweights fell on two different dates and came close to either a person or a boat. In the August incident, a counterweight fell into Vineyard Haven Harbor, and you can take a look at the video and see a boat backing up away from it when it fell in the water. And in a May 2020 incident, counterweight fell in the water and came rather close to a person who was working for the Steamship Authority. And so the question is relative to this meeting, per the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, have you folks thought about signage to mariners to warn them of these counterweights and their potential as a hazard? You also have a dinghy dock that's adjacent to the transfer bridge in Vineyard Haven. I should have specified this was Vineyard Haven. And also, have you considered signage for the transfer bridges for SSA workers and the public? Something to the extent that there are high tension wires there with heavy weights on them. That's my first question.
Okay, so in that regard, one of the things that talking with staff about has been whether there's a way for us to structure something to keep those weights in place if the cable was to fail. to avoid those situations, but in terms of that, the location on that one closest to the dinghy dock, yes, and that's something that we should have some additional signage there to keep people away.
Okay, no. And the other question, if I may, is if you had any update on the fate or potential fate of the Catema, the Gayhead, and the Sankaty. If there's been any more, if you've advanced that study as to whether they're going to be scrapped or whether they're going to be sold or what may happen.
Yeah, so company's been tasked with coming up with a market value survey as well as a survey based on what the projected scrap value of those vessels would be. We haven't received that yet, so but as we move along with the conversion and reactivation of these of the OSVs, we'll be reaching a point where we are able to make a determination as to when we may be looking to officially declare those as surplus and available for sale. So
Is there like a due date for them to give you those numbers, or is it open-ended?
yeah, I don't recall offhand whether there's a due date on that, because we knew we had time in terms of the construction of the modifications to the vessels is 6-7 month process minimum. So
Understood, and thank you.
I don't see any. Hearing none, I will, I guess, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Same as the port council.
Second. We adjourn the. port council at the same time? Okay.
They get a joint meeting.
You have to do a roll call.
Go ahead.
All right.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second that. Roll call.
Mark Reese, yes.
Joe Salido, yes.
Robin here, yes.
John Cahill, yes. I didn't know.
Hello, yes. Hi, yes, thank you.
Bud, yes.
Now we need a motion.
We have one.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, we just need a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There we go.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Very good.